Okay, full disclosure, I don't know how long I'm going to be wearing this, but you know, it's an end of the year video. It's not even in the shot. I thought briefly about doing the video with this, but I thought that might be a little much. Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about writing, books, philosophy, and pretty much whatever I want. My name is Kate, thank you so much for being here. 2024 has been quite a year. It was actually a very good year for me, reading-wise, career-wise, if you can call it that, and personally. So I thought today, on the last day of December, I would sit down and do kind of like a 2024 retrospective. So I will go through my photos, my archives per month and just talk about any highlights that I see. A lot happened in 2024, some monumental things. So let's go ahead and get started. In January 2024, the very first book I read was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I remember I got really sick in January, so January ended up being my best reading month. I think I read 12 books because I was coughing up a storm. It wasn't COVID, so I just was at home and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just read. Oh yeah, do you guys remember the Josh meme? I love that one so much. Oh yeah, I had a literal tree growing in my floorboards. I didn't want to get rid of it. My landlady ended up getting rid of it. I signed up at a new gym and I got a lock for the gym. That's very exciting. On to February of 2024. My birthday, February 1st, went out, had a nice night with a friend of mine. Oh, I think February was also when we had a hurricane here in Los Angeles, which was really uncommon, and I remember my roof was leaking. That was actually really fun though. Like there was no water damage and it was just raining constantly for days. And in my area of town, it was really peaceful. February, I started the longest book that I read this year, which was Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, coming in at just over 1,200 pages, I think. This was also, I think, when my mom and I started planning our trip to the UK. We went to London and Edinburgh, and I was very nervous about it even that early on because I hate flying. Okay, March was a big deal. March 7th, I started my Kickstarter. Okay, so I'm not used to asking for help. If you have been following me for a while, then you know that I wrote a book in 2022, finished it in 2023, have been trying to get it traditionally published, and that's not really the way it's gonna go. I think I'm gonna do self-publishing. I've started a Kickstarter in order to help me fund my debut novel, Under the Same Sky. Only 3 days later, I hit the goal of $2,800 while my friend Amy was visiting me. We hit the goal of $2,800 while the love of my life is here. And so we went out and celebrated that. And I remember that was just such an absolutely insane time because I remember the first night I launched the Kickstarter, I was like, I don't even know if this is gonna work. And then I checked a couple hours later and it already had $700 pledged to it. And I was like, oh my God. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at this. I cannot believe how kind strangers on the internet are. I was officially able to publish my book. Oh yeah, and I also found an editor this month. I remember posting this saying that, excuse me while I cry about the nice words my editor said about my opening chapter. Storytelling and plot setup is exemplary. Oh yes, of course, and this was also the month I found Dracula in Love by Karen Essex, and if you've been watching my content for a while, you know how I feel about this book. I have seldom had such a visceral reaction to an ending of a book, and this one really put me over the edge. But March 27th was when I was reading it for the first time. I posted this saying, when you find a random library book with an awful cover from 2010 that's actually becoming a new favorite. Oh, sweet summer child. In late March, I was having some issues with the Kickstarter. Some people were going in and changing donation amounts, like at the last second, which meant that, you know, if you don't hit the amount, you won't get any of the funds. So I had like another push for the Kickstarter, and I ended up almost like doubling the original amount that I asked for. So that was amazing. I needed every penny of that. Moving into April, I remember there was an eclipse that month, and I had just finished writing in my old journal, which usually it takes me a few years to get through a journal. I love Diarpel journals. They're my favorite. I've used them ever since I was little, and I finally finished it. I think I had gotten it in 2019 because I just hadn't written it that much. And I got my new one, which is, I think this is a Monet journal, the cover journal, you know what I mean? This is fast forwarding a bit to later in the year, but I'm almost done with this. And it hasn't even been a year. So this really was the year of writing and things involving writing, getting things going. I love this journal so much, and I've grown so much since I got this in April. It's hard to believe that I'm almost done with it, but April was when I got this and began writing in it on the day of the eclipse, I think. So a little spooky, you know? I posted about this journal. Let's do life together. I always try to make things nostalgic. I don't know, I'm a nostalgic person. Oh yeah, in April, I live in Los Angeles, and Taylor Swift was doing an exhibit at the Grove, so of course I had to go see that. That was really cool. I got the exclusive bookmark. Oh yeah, and I found, okay, so this was the year of tote bags for me because I was never like into tote bags before, but I found one that was Dracula themed. It's like the castle, and it has quotes on the sides, and it's a book bag, and it has one of the best quotes from the book on the bag. It's the "I'm all in a sea of wonder" quote. So I got that in April, and I loved it. Moving into May, this was when I read A Court of Wings and Ruin, which I really liked. This was kind of like the book that made me become an ACOTAR fan. Yes, I am guilty of being on the hype train for that series. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I have like my ups and downs with it, but this was the month I did that. And I also read A Court of Frost and Starlight. Oh, this was also the month that there were northern lights visible all across the United States. And I remember posting, if any of my LA friends want to try to see the northern lights tonight, hit me up. And I ended up going with a friend of mine, two friends of mine. We didn't see them, but it was really cool. We drove up to this mountain in the Los Angeles National Forest. And it was because of that post I ended up meeting somebody who I briefly like dated over the summer. This was also the year I deleted my dating apps, which was the best decision ever. And just better people just came to me this year. At the end of May was when I left to go to London with my mom. We flew on one of the biggest planes ever, Airbus A330, I think. I remember the airport was really cool because there was an author there who was doing signed copies of her book, and of course I had to pick one up. I also picked up Emily Henry's Funny Story. I had plenty to read, even though I brought my Kindle specifically so I wouldn't read anything, but I still did buy more books, which was, you know, dumb. We had a really good time. Went to a bunch of museums, saw a bunch of shows. When we went to Edinburgh, we stayed at this place called the Witchery, which is my favorite hotel I've ever stayed at. It's so beautiful. I met an owl. I saw the Eras Tour. It was night 1, I think. It was whichever one had Woulda Coulda Should've as one of the surprise songs. Got one of my favorite new sweatshirts. It's like this Edinburgh sweatshirt. We also went up to Fort William for a little bit. It was freezing. It was June at that point, so now we're moving into June, which was surprising to both of us. It was like in the 40s or 50s. But I absolutely fell in love with Edinburgh. I can't wait to go back. And then my friend Tanner ended up being in London at the same time that I was, and so he showed me around London, and that was so much fun. And the very next day, I flew back to Los Angeles, and I got COVID. I don't know how I got it. I think it must have been from the Eras Tour, but that sucked. I also picked up another tote bag while I was in Edinburgh. It's like an Edinburgh tote bag. I don't know if I have any pictures of it, but if I do, I'll put it here. 2 tote bags have entered the chat. This is still June. Read one of my favorite books of the year, which was The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. Got over COVID in a couple of weeks, but of course, me being me, I was very nervous about my health. But June was mostly just recuperating after the trip and COVID and, you know, whatever. Moving into July, had a lovely birthday party with one of my best friends here in LA. I think July was also when I got a Kindle, so that was pretty monumental. July was also when I talked to a copyright lawyer and just like squared away more stuff with my book. Oh yeah, I forgot to say this in June, I got back my manuscript from my editor, and this thus began the editing process of reading through my books a lot. I'll get into the total number when I actually did that in September, but that was really exciting. I used the entirety of the 9-hour flight back to read over his edits approve them, deny them, whichever. Really finally combing through what he gave me. Back to July. Oh, this was the month that I watched North and South for the first time and absolutely fell in love with it. John Thornton is my favorite historical romance man. Oh yeah, I also started reading my favorite book of the year in Edinburgh, but I didn't finish it until July, The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. July was also when I got to work on a Teddy Swims music video. It's called Bad Dreams. My friend Tanner was the director, producer for that video. And that was a good 2 days I was on set working on that, and I met Teddy Swims while holding a donut, so that was great. Oh yeah, July was when I briefly worked for this multi-level marketing company that was really bad. Yeah, that was not a good time. I'm so glad I got out of that. I think this July was also when I started doing Postmates. Moving into August, I started dabbling a little bit in animation with Blender. Only got so far with that. August seems like it's a pretty low-key month. I'm sure what I was doing most of the month was working on book stuff, because moving into September, this is when I got all of my stuff set up for KDP to publish my book. September was also the month that I read my book an additional 4 times, so the grand total ended up being 13 times. I read it through a lot to really finalize things. I wrote a book, it's about to be published video, which is, it's doing the best on my channel. This was also when I did, I think it was September, the week-long challenge of uploading a video every day, and that really jump-started my YouTube channel again, and now I've almost doubled my subscribers in a short amount of time, and now I'm over 1,400, and I thank you guys so much. So started posting more on YouTube and really enjoying that. September was when I hit 1,000 subscribers. September was when I got the very first proof of my debut novel. I'm pretty sure it was September. There needed to be some fine tweaking, and it wasn't until the 3rd proof copy that it was a stamp of approval. I remember exactly when the cover was designed. I think it was over the summer with Tanner. I think it might have been August. I don't think I posted about it, which is why I can't find photos of it. That was when he and I designed and made the cover for Under the Same Sky. And then yeah, it took 3 more proof copies, more tweaks before I was happy with it. September was when the Teddy Swims video came out. September I was doing final edits on Under the Same Sky. Also when I read A Court of Silver Flames. September was when I put up the pre-order for Under the Same Sky. Hello everybody, I have a very exciting announcement to make, and that is my debut romance novel, Under the Same Sky, is now available for pre-order on Kindle. Also throughout this year I was posting a lot more on Threads, which is my favorite social media app, and I grew exponentially on there. I think right now I'm close to 6,000 followers. So now moving into October. October was, I think, when I started getting back to going to the gym because I was too scared to after COVID. October was a huge month because on October 11th, my debut novel came out. Very special day. I could not believe the amount of support that I had for that book. That was absolutely amazing. October, I think, was my best reading month. I think I read the most good books consistently in October. By the way, I'm gonna have a separate video talking about stats of all the books I read this year. I figured it'd be better to chop up the 2 videos. Moving into the end of October, I read Catcher in the Rye, which was probably my most surprising book of 2024. I didn't think I would like it, and it's one of my top favorite books of the year. I also read Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, which I absolutely loved. I started sending out copies of my book to bookstagrammers in exchange for them to post about it or write a review or whatever, and that was really nice. Met a lot of cool people doing that. Moving into November, at the end of October, my mom came to visit me, and then she stayed into early November, and she showed me that her personal style is way better than mine, and I'm like, damn, I need to step it up, I guess. November was when things started to fall apart, if we remember correctly, because I voted and then was not super happy with the outcome, and that kind of derailed my train, so to speak. So I kind of didn't post on YouTube for a long time, but I did post a lot more on other apps like Threads and Instagram. That was a really dark couple of weeks in early November. And then my friend Tanner and I did a lot of things together, and that was beautiful. I read Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin in November, which is also one of my top favorite books of this year. Had a lovely Friendsgiving with my friend Henry at his house. Finally moving into December. I love December because it's so cozy, and it's when Apple Music releases the year in review stuff. It's when Goodreads does it, Fable, like all these apps. I love yearly wrap-ups. December, we had a game night at one of Tanner's friends' houses, and that was so much fun. Worked on another music video. I saw Nosferatu on December 24th, Christmas Eve, which I had been waiting for years. That whole week, Christmas week, was just super cozy. I did the Santa Monica Steps for the first time and like sobbed like a baby afterwards. And then finally today, the last day of December 2024, I officially became a Goodreads author. If you want to check out my Goodreads, it's linked down below. I write reviews there, and it officially links Under the Same Sky as one of my books. And it took a long time for Goodreads to sort that out, but it finally happened today, the last day of 2024. So there you have it. 2024 was honestly a really great year. The biggest highlights I can think of were probably my Edinburgh trip and the Kickstarter, meeting some really incredible people this year and developing wonderful relationships with them, finding my new favorite book of all time. Love this so much. Really got way more into writing this year. As I said, I'm almost done with this Diarpel journal, which is a pretty big journal. My debut novel came out in October. I'm a Goodreads author. I've grown a much larger following on YouTube and Threads. I've grown so much this year through, various spiritual practices that I've found, or, reading certain books. I've been so much more open this year, much less anxiety filled. Like, I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm just really proud of myself. Of course, there were ups and downs throughout the year, but I can look back on them and see how they were necessary. So there you have it. I'm very excited for 2025. I hope that you enjoyed this video. What were your favorite parts of 2024? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out Under the Same Sky on Amazon and rate it on Amazon and Goodreads. And yeah, check out my Goodreads page. Like, it's so exciting to me that I'm an author on Goodreads. I hope you guys had a fantastic 2024, a fantastic holiday season, and I will see you in the new year. Bye.